sure I'm ready to start. Right. Okay, hello. I'm just checking to see whether or not anyone can see me. Can you see me? Can you see the webinar? We're a bit late, so sorry for the couple of minutes late. We're about 5 minutes off target. I'm just checking to see if anybody can hear me. Let me just post the link out again. Those of you who didn't get the link earlier, well, thank you. I'm seeing Tasha. Is there anybody else? Natasha, how are you doing? I'm looking forward to hearing what you can share with us tonight. I'm just going to post the link back out. We're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to come in. Sorry, my voice is a bit... If you would like me to email it to you, I'm happy to do that. Oh, my voice is a bit crackly tonight. Okay, I'll email this out in a minute. Tonight we are talking about how to connect with men without chasing them away, of course. How to connect with men beyond physical attraction. My first question, have you ever had a strong connection with someone? And I'm not talking about a physical romantic connection. It could be with a friend, with someone that you got to know. Have you ever met someone that you have bonded well and your spirits resonate with each other? Has that ever happened to you? Okay. Okay. Right. Some people are saying you may need to refresh the page. Okay. From my side, things are Francesca. Whoa, Francesca is in the house. Happy to see you, Francesca. Some people are having problems connecting. Okay, good. So Nia is in. Francesca is in the house. I haven't seen her for a long time. Is there anybody else who's going to connect with us? We're just going to wait for 1 or 2 people to come in before we start, because we have a hot topic today. Well, an important topic, a deep topic, and it's about connection. How do you connect with people? And I have a question for you. Let me go back. I have a question for you. I'm going to put the question in the question box so that we could chat with the question, because I know that there is a bit of a delay. Here's the question: if we were to ban physical romantic connections, touching, kissing, even intercourse, how would you connect with someone beyond those? How would you connect with someone beyond having to touch, kiss, and maybe, have, intercourse with them? If all those were to be banned and you're in a relationship, how would you be able to connect with someone? So I'm going to give you a little bit of a chance to maybe put those in the chat box, and I'll see what you come up with. So Nia is here. Ray is here too. Rachel, great to see you. I've missed you for a couple of weeks. Tonight we are talking about how to connect beyond physical attraction. And that is very vital, very important. Some of the things I'm going to share with you are things that you may find interesting. You may know some of them, but we are going to explore them at a deeper level. Some things are rather simple, but in this day and age where so much emphasis is placed on the physical attraction, the long hair, the body parts, the hourglass shape, all of these, the physical attraction is really hammered heavily in the media, in much of the books and magazines that everywhere we go, we are shown beautiful pictures of lovely women and handsome, ripped men, and it is as if this is the in-all and be-all of connection. But you and I know that that is not the case. But the question is, how do we connect? All right. If you have any responses, please put it in the chat box as we wait for any other person who might want to log in as we start the webinar. And on top of that, I'm asking, have you ever had a deep connection with someone? And I'm not talking a romantic connection, just a connection with another human being, whether it's male or female, and you've really resonated with that person as if you were buddies forever. And have you ever had that experience? And maybe you could tell us about someone that you have connected deeply with. Right. Tasha says, yes, she has had that connection, both male and female connection. Anybody? Well, by the way, I have to always ask, are you hearing me? Okay, it's obvious that you're hearing me because you're responding. All right, sharing through conversation, finding similar interests, eye contact. Oh, interesting. Francesca says you can connect intellectually or same interests as in hobbies. So depending, yeah, I like these. Tasha B says, I have conversations. I'm drawn when I can communicate from a place of spiritual understanding. I like sharing how God has blessed and hearing how God has blessed another. Wonderful. You know, it has been identified that women communicate much more deeply than men. They are able to communicate with each other through words and energy and vibes and intuition beyond that which many men know how to grasp. In fact, I'm sorry about that. In fact, it has been identified as a signal and major need for women to be able to communicate, to be able to talk, to be able to connect through communication. And I know that for a fact because in my area of business, many a woman tell me that their husband don't talk to them. Their husband don't listen to them. Well, my wife says the same thing too. And but that's the major strength of women. They can communicate on both a superficial and deep level through words, through talking. And I'll explore a little bit about that later. But we're trying to talk about connecting with men. And as we're ready to go, we're ready to shoot off, I just need some confirmation that you can hear me before I start the actual webinar. I know that there is a little bit of a delay, so I'm just asking people to put a yes in the chat box. Y for yes, N for no, if you can hear me. Very good, very good. So now that you can hear me, I am asking us to pause whatever we're doing. If you're on your phone chatting, if you have several windows on your computer, I'm asking you to close them out and focus on this specific one, and then we can pray. So just take a moment to clear your head and your mind. And well, not empty your mind, but clear your mind as we pray to the Father in heaven. Great, right? Several people are saying yes, coming through. They can hear me, right? So that I am assured that I am being heard. I can start the webinar. Shall we pray? Father, we are always happy to gather together, whether digitally and sometimes, just come together as a group and spread ideas, talk about ideas. that are of vital interest to each of us, because you made us for connection. The human being crave connection. We crave connection with you. We crave connection with each other. But we deeply crave a special kind of connection with the opposite gender. And I pray today that you would help us in this quest of forming a relationship and relating in a way that we connect deeply, and this connection will bring fulfillment and satisfaction, growth and blessing to both ourselves and those people with whom we relate and connect. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, are we ready to start? Now, many of the ideas I'm going to share, you may have heard of them, you may even know them. Some of them you may not be aware of, but most of them we are going to plow deeply in some of them. And I'm going to ask my friend Tasha said that she has some ideas as we go along. I'm going to be calling on Tasha to share with her some of the ideas and concepts. But not only Tasha, I'm sure that Francesca, Nia, I'm missing someone that who's usually here, which is Patricia. Maybe she will join us a little later. And even, who else do we have in the house? Rachel. I'll be happy to hear from Rachel too. So don't be afraid to share with us. The first point I want us to start with is a very simple concept. A concept that we may know intuitively, but the profundity of this concept is something that I want to explore. That to connect with people, we need to love them. We need to like them. And I'm not talking about just simply love and like because you want something, because you see them as like maybe a father, a husband, a dad, or something like that. No. I am talking about liking them and loving them as human beings. And let me just explain to you. I'll just say it's not really difficult to connect with people that you like. If you like someone, it is rather easy to connect with them. Think about it for a moment. Think about all the people that you have connected with. All the people you're currently connected with, all the people that you have connected with in the past, when you were a child, your childhood friends, your classmate, or the friends from school or college or university or work or in church. If you think about them, one of the common denominators that spread through all of these connections you've had is that you like those people, or more so, you love them. So it's really not, this is the foundational platform. This is the scaffolding that is required for you to make connections. Of course, there are times when we need to connect when we don't feel like liking people, when we feel like slapping them or just getting, there are times, but I'm not talking about those times. I'm talking about the fact that when you like someone, when you like a group of people, when you like something, if you just think about people who like and love pets, it is said that animals could sense when you like them or when you love them. There are some people animals are just naturally drawn to. They wander up to them, kittens and cats. There are some people that you go to a house and they have a pet, a kitten, a cat, and the dog or puppy just simply come up to you and begin to rub against you, whereas there's maybe someone else in the house that they stay clear from. So people can sense when you like them. And I'm suggesting to you that if you don't have a liking, if you don't love men or women, if there is a man in the house who's on the call, who's on the webinar, if you don't like the opposite gender, they can sense it. You can actually intuit. We can't fake liking because other human beings and even animals sense it. When I was a teacher, the children knew the teachers who love children. They also knew, even if you were the strictest teacher in the school, the children knew whether or not you really loved them. Whereas there are some teachers who just taught for the money, or taught because they got the benefits of holidays. And the children knew that, and the children were attracted to them. So you need to love and like the opposite gender. And like begets love. Like begets like. Love begets love. When you like someone, they have found that that person is prone or is more apt, and the chances of that person reciprocating in a similar manner is higher. So similarly, if you love men, and if you like men, if you like them as human beings, as members of the opposite gender, you will find that they will like you too. That you become a likable person. He who wants a friend or wants to be a friend must show himself friendly. And when you begin to share love and share, but how do you do this? How do you do this? I'm actually not seeing the chat. And I need to just make sure that I'm able to see the chat. Hold on, guys. Let me get into the chat on another phone. I have to put it on another phone. Oh, hold on. How do you do this? I'm actually not seeing the chat. I need to just make sure that I'm able to see the chat. Oh, Patricia has joined us. Welcome, Patricia. I need to turn the volume down on this. Okay. So like begets like. When and people can sense you. It doesn't matter what technique you use. It doesn't matter what psychology you use. If you don't like people, you're going to come across as being fake. And all of us, many of us, we detest and despise, and we just don't like people who are fake. We like genuine people. And similarly, men love genuine women. Women love genuine men too. Another thing about liking and loving people, it makes people feel safe with you. If you love children, they feel safe with you. They will play with you. They will jump on you. They know that you will not hurt them, or shame them, or insult them, or reject them. When someone is safe, there is nothing to a man than safety and security. I cannot explain to you how vital that man is. That principle is for men. We are normally seen and presumed to be strong bulwarks with broad shoulders. Sometimes we don't show emotions, but it doesn't mean that we don't have them. I remember years ago when there was something that came out in the Caribbean which says that the Caribbean man is more sensitive than he pretends to be. But I think that is true for all men. We are a lot more sensitive than we pretend to be. We are a lot more vulnerable than we pretend to be. And one of the greatest things that we questions that always flow in the depth of our soul. It doesn't matter how powerful we are. It doesn't matter how accomplished we are and how confident we seem. Deep within our hearts, we always thinking, if you really knew me, would you still like me? John Powell writes that book, and he also has another book, Why I'm Afraid to Tell You Who I Really Am. Why I'm afraid to tell you who I am. And many of us, we have layers, don't we? Many of us don't show ourselves or our vulnerable part, our naked self, our needs. We don't show people that because People judge us. People pigeonhole us. People may reject us. So we're very careful how we reflect ourselves to people. And men, well, I could tell you, we are prime examples of pretending to be what we are not. So the third point I want to make here is that when you like people, it also signals acceptance. And I'll explore acceptance in a little bit more detail as we go along. Have you ever really felt accepted by someone? You know, I remember one time I went for a job. I was going to be a journalist. And I remember I was going to be like a rookie journalist, one of those, you know, I was starting out. And I walked into the office. I had that appointment that day and walked into the office, and I was still in high school, secondary school. And I was very, very tensed and really stressed because I didn't know what to expect. You know, I went into this big, massive office where they collected, you know, there were people in different computer stations. I was anxious. I was very trepid. And I looked across the room. There were different people, like I said, at the various computers. And the editor was leaning over a desk, peering into a computer screen with someone, and they were discussing some issue. And he looked up and saw me, and he smiled. And when he smiled, it was almost as if all the tension and anxiety and stress simply drained out of me, and I felt relaxed because his smile signaled acceptance. I felt accepted. I just felt that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Don't know if you have ever had that experience. One of the things I always tell people with getting to know other people is just simply be curious about them. Just have a sense of curiosity. And if you meet the opposite gender, just try and figure out you know, these creatures that God made. You know, have you ever seen an animal and you're just fascinated with the animal? You wonder how the animal operates. You know, I sometimes when I was small, I used to like looking at kittens. And they're so playful. They are so wonderful to look at. They chase after this or chase after that with short darts. And it was just a joy simply to look at them. And similarly, I think that if you develop a sense of curiosity, you will be amazed at, you know, what you begin to see and like about the opposite gender. So I'm going to talk now about 3 A's. 3 A's that are particularly powerful elements in connecting with men. Some of them you know already. Some of them I'm going to explore them in a lot more detail. And the first A is to adore men. Men love to be adored. No, that's not any news to anybody. But what is adoration? Men also love to be appreciated. I spoke about appreciation just now. And men love to be accepted. Now, adoration is really an attitude. It almost borders on worshiping. I don't know. It borders. We adore God. We sing hymns of adoration to God. God inhabits our praise. Because we adore him, we praise him. It's a wonderful thing. And when you adore something, it's almost like an attitude where you're in awe of this thing. It's seen in the eyes and the face and the body posture. Sometimes, when you are in the presence of this grand being, you feel small. You feel, when you go to the museum and you muse, as men we like to see beautiful women, but we're configured to look at the physical beauty of a woman, and it catches our eyes. We're in awe. Similarly, I think that, the Bible says that Sarah called Abraham Lord. And in that culture, many of the women used to refer to their men as Lord, and respect those men accordingly. They had a sense of humility with those men. Not a sense of being subservient, but they're just in awe of that person. And usually when we become curious about another being, and we begin to see aspects, which brings us to another vital and important point, is that you begin to look for the good in the person, to catch the person out. Have you ever tried catching the person out doing something great or doing good? In fact, I have a quote. I don't know which part of the slide the quote will come in, but I might as well refer to it now. That what you look for, you see. What you look for, you see. If you begin to look for the good, if you begin to look for the great, if you begin to look for the wonderful, if you begin to look for the points that you can respect, guess what? You will find them. Now let's talk a little about acceptance. And I always say that we should see beyond the presenting behavior of people. And the person who I want to identify as the greatest acceptor, I'm not sure if all right, I'm just checking here to see if there are any questions. Hello. I'm going to pause here just for you to chime in, because I don't want to be just chatting without getting some interaction from you guys. Have you ever had an experience where you felt accepted by someone, fully accepted, even though you might have done something wrong, even though you might have felt inadequate? Have you ever felt fully accepted? And when you felt fully accepted, how did that help you to behave to and with that person? I'm going to give you an example from the Bible of a person who I feel felt fully accepted. And that's the woman who was caught in adultery, who was to be condemned. The woman who was brought to Jesus by all those people, particularly men, who were asking Jesus to judge her, and to Okay, Tasha has asked a question. I'm coming back to that question after I finish the story. She was fully condemned. She was guilty. The law had a punishment, or what we call a capital punishment for any such person. And hence, I could imagine that woman sitting there or standing or cowering in absolute shame and disgust with everybody targeting her. And I could imagine that she was just there. Her heart must have been crushed as she waited for the first stone to hit her. And as she trembled, waiting, Jesus, orchestrated a series of events by saying, look, him that is without sin, cast the first stone. And people walked away as he wrote in the dust. And when everybody dissipated, the crowd went away. Jesus asked the woman, "Woman, where are your accusers?" She looked around, almost, I think, tentatively, fearing to open her eyes. But when she did, there was nobody. And Jesus said, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Can you imagine the feeling of acceptance, total acceptance that this woman had? Can you imagine how she would relate to Jesus after that? Okay, before we go on, if a woman gives too much awe or respect to a man, can he feel put off? The answer to that is no, except he sense that it's not genuine. Except he sense that it's not genuine, or except he's a bit of a narcissist. Now, there is a difference between awe and respect. And I think there's a term that escapes me here. That if you're trying to ingratiate yourself to a man, then that is a put off. That is a put off. But when someone respects you, when someone admires you, then I'm not too sure that you would be put off, unless this person is some way, somehow doing it to manipulate you and ingratiate themselves to you. Now, Nia responded, if you only focus on seeing the good, might you miss some crucial areas which may be no-go areas, like I think red flags or deal breakers you're talking about, Nia. Well, the operative thing here is not, you don't only focus on seeing the good. You see the good and appreciate that there are other aspects of the individual. For example, a good example is that a lot of parents see good in their children, but they are also aware that those children have flaws and they have to relate and deal with those flaws. And the same attitude probably would be best for us in the context of what we are talking about. I hope that helps. But one of the ways of seeing the good in someone is to recognize, even when someone have behavior that are obnoxious. Behaviors that are obnoxious, those behavior points are as a result of how they feel, the emotions they have. And those feelings stem from the fact that their needs are not met. Now, emotional needs, we're not going to go too much in that in this webinar. However, all of us, because we are born to connect. And when we don't connect, it makes us feel uncomfortable. It makes us feel dissatisfied. It makes us feel hungry. And sometimes the symptoms of that would be anger, could be frustration. It could be seen in the way we relate, we shout, we try to through anger tantrums, we try to shame other people, and those people who do this most are the people whose needs are greatest, to put it simply. All right, I'm going to continue. Here's a quote I referred to earlier. You see what you look for, you attract what you are. You see what you look for, you attract what you are. Now, does that mean that every behavior that someone exhibits is what we are looking for? No, not exactly. It doesn't necessarily mean that. But generally, what this statement is saying, that sometimes we tend to look for the worst in someone. You know, I asked a question in a seminar that I had once. I said, I'm going to give you a word. And when I give you this word, I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. And I'm going to do this experiment with you right now. I'm going to tell you a word, and I want each person to give me exactly, or as near to exact as possible, the first thing or response that comes to their mind. Are you ready? Okay, Patricia has a question. How can you get the balance right? I talk to guys and then they start talking about their girlfriends. How do you connect when you're being friendly and don't flirt with them? Okay, there is a deep connection and there are surface connections. Okay, so clearly if they talk about their girlfriends, it's a signal that obviously you respect that boundary and don't try to connect to them on a deep level. Connecting with them is just simply on a surface level. If they are your colleagues, then you will be connecting to them professionally. If they are people in church, then you simply connect with them as you would any other person in church. So you will be maintaining the platonic connection and not a deeper connection. All right, I'm ready to give this word or phrase, and I want everyone to type in what their response would be. Are we all ready? Okay, I've typed it in. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? I'm waiting for you to respond. I'm just going to get some water and I'll check the response as soon as I get back. Tyrone, Andre, have you all showered? Have you done washing? Oh. Near, yes. Well, Tasha says, Bible study. Man, you have a very holy, spiritual mind. Patricia says, what? Okay, Nia, none. Where are they? Sorry. I have a bit of all married. Okay. I remember one time I did something like this, but I didn't say Christian men. I said men. And this girl responded dogs. I was absolutely shocked. The concept she had of men, that they are dogs. And I was really very taken back with the concept that this girl was taking around and carrying around in her mind as to who men are and the quality of men that she the quality of men that she has experienced. So we have got to be really very careful of our concept. So some people are saying that there are no Christian men or no good Christian men, that they're all married, that there are none. So I just want to respond to all of these. First of all, if in your mind that you're not seeing any and you think that there are none, then what you think about, you bring about. What you think about, you actually bring about. Hence, the more you think that there are no good Christian men or there are none, then guess what? That is what's going to happen in your life. And we've got to move beyond what you see, because we live by faith and not by sight. We live by faith and not by feelings. And I want you to try this experiment. I want you to write this down. I want you to try this experiment. I want you to thank God every day for the next 7 days. Every day you want to thank God for all the wonderful Christian single eligible men that are out there that you will interact with and that will come into your life. I want you to thank God. You know, the Bible says that in everything we must give thanks. So I want you to move beyond, and I'm speaking specifically to Nia right now. I want you to move beyond the thought that there are no eligible Christian men of the quality that you want. And I want you to begin to thank God. You're going to thank God every day for the next 7 days for the wonderful, great, eligible, available, single Christian men that are out there. And I want you to look for them. And I want you to keep your mind open that they are there and you will find them. So you're going to shift from the concept that there are none, and you're going to shift to the position where you're going to thank God for them, that you will see them and that you will meet them. Similarly, I want you to shift from that most good or all good Christian men are married. No, they are not married. They are great single Christian men available. I like the fact that Francesca says they're God-fearing. Ray thinks of the word priest. Oh, no, you corrected me. It's not a thought, it's a reality. That there are no Christian men. Okay, we have to be very careful as Christians what we buy into. I want to tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to move back to my presentation. A story that you know that is found in the New Testament in the Gospels, where the disciples of Jesus, who were professional fishermen, fished all night, and they weren't able to catch one single fish. They were discouraged by the time the daybreak came. The sun was peering over the mountains. Their nets were empty, and they were tired, and they were about to give up and go home, because by now they realize if you haven't caught anything during the night, the chances of getting anything during the daytime is nil. So as they moved towards the shore, they saw someone, and the person turned out to be Jesus, and he said, well, look, what I want you to do is to cast your net on the other side. The men clearly and quickly identified, look, we have been fishing all night, we haven't caught one fish, but because it's you, your master, we're going to throw on the other side. So they threw their net on the other side, and lo and behold, miracle of miracles, when they tugged on the net was full with fish and almost burst. It threatened to capsize and sink their fishing boat. What's the point? What point am I making? The reality, what we call reality, what we see with our eyes, is not God's reality. You won't believe it. God has 1,000 ways. You may have heard me make this quote before. God has 1,000 ways to deliver us out of difficulty, to solve our problems, to give us answers, to make men show up in our lives, for us to see men. I remember this other story, and I don't want to go too long with this, of Elijah's servant. When the armies were camped about the city, and he was so terrified. But Elijah prayed, look, Lord, open his eyes. When the eyes of Elisha, servant, was open, camped around the mountains were innumerable angels ready to fight. You know, what we see with our eyes, and the reality we see, and the limitations we see, are not God's limitation. They're not God's reality. He thinks thoughts that are higher than our thoughts. And so I'm going to pray that God opens the eyes of every one of us, that the scales drop off our eyes, and we begin to see as God sees. And I guarantee you that there are more men out there looking for people like you that you don't really know. Okay, I'm going to go back to my presentation. The magic of appreciation. The magic of appreciation. How to connect. How to connect. I think you know this. But, funnily enough, us men have experienced many interaction with women where a lot of those women feel entitled. And in fact, many of the things that we do for and with them go totally unnoticed. It is almost like children. Children feel entitled to the food that they get. They feel entitled to the clothes that we buy. They feel entitled to the things that we provide for them. And in many instances, not many children show very much appreciation. But there is a trick about this. I call it a trick. I find that when people show appreciation for things that we do for, with, and to them, it creates what I call a compounding effect. It makes you really want to do the thing and more again. And so I am saying here that one of the ways we connect with each other is that we become aware, conscious of, and deliberately set out to show appreciation for people in our lives, and particularly men, because we feed off appreciation. And this thing, I think it has, how would I say it? This thing has bypassed many modern women, particularly the feminists. And I'm going to ask you to do another experiment this week. And any man in your life, any man, could be your brother, your uncle, your father, your friend, your colleague, any man, your nephew, any male in your life, I want you to deliberately identify 5 of them. And then every day, for the next 5 to 7 days, send them a text or give them a call or say to them, look, I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you have done, and you identify the time they have done X, Y, or Z. I appreciate the fact that you have done so well in your life. I appreciate the fact that you've been there for me if you're speaking to your father. I appreciate the thing that you brought for me. Just think of one thing that they have done, or have done with you, or to you, or for you, and make it a point of verbalizing your appreciation. And I tell you, I want you to observe the response and reaction. And it may shock you. You may not think about it the way I'm expressing it, but the magic of appreciation, particularly for men, particularly for and of men, will do miracles as they relate for you. I give you a story. A lady's husband died, and she went. You may have heard me tell the story before, but it underscores the point I'm making. She went next door a couple of weeks or days after and asked the woman next door if her husband could come and do some DIY in the house. I don't know what it was. And when the guy went over, when he came home, his wife told him, can you just go and help the neighbor? Remember, her husband has died, and, let's support her. When he was finished, the woman was so appreciative. She was so happy and praised him so highly. It happened another time, and another time, and another time, to the point where eventually the woman, the widow, stopped asking her neighbor to lend her husband. She started asking the husband directly. And the husband was so happy. And the widow was so appreciative. He was, she praised him to high heavens. And eventually, the story goes that he had an affair with her. Now, that's sad. But the point is, what used to happen in his house, he would come home from work, and when he came home, got in the house, his wife had a list of things for him to do. She was always complaining. She was always had something negative to say. No matter how hard or how much work he did, she was never appreciative of what she did. She was always harping on the things he hasn't done. And hence, it just made it a dread for him to come home. But this other woman, thought he was the best thing in sliced bread, and he was the best builder. He was the best, anything he did, she would be so appreciative of it and praised him to high heavens. And, one thing led to another. Well, that's the magic of appreciation. I'm not saying that he should have done what he did. Neither am I saying that simply because the wife was so ungrateful, unappreciative, that they couldn't have spoken about what was transpiring. But I think it went beyond them, and he felt his need of appreciation being fulfilled by the widow. So for the next couple of days, see if you can give some appreciation to the men in your life and observe the reaction. Tell us about it. Okay. Believe in him when he doesn't, even when he doesn't believe in himself. I've spoken about this a couple of times. And I am not going to spend too long on this, but the power of belief and expectation. The power of belief and expectation. Men love to live up to the expectation and the belief of women. They like to kind of show themselves. Even when they are uncertain of themselves, if they know that somehow or the other you are expecting great things of them, they actually will respond and live up to that expectation. Much like children live the expectation of their teachers and parents and significant people in their life. I remember when I was a rookie teacher, I started teaching in the villages of Montserrat, one of the village of Montserrat. The teachers used to always generally say that, the children from a certain part of the area will turn out to be no good. And guess what? The children turned out to be no good. Because somehow I think the children actually picked up on the expectations of those teachers. I don't know if any of you has ever come across Les Brown. Les Brown is a famous inspirational speaker from America. He started out his life very rough, and he was going down, sliding down. He was just going off the rail at school. One day he went to meet his friend, and his friend was having some kind of drama class, and there was someone in the drama class who didn't come to class that day. And the teacher looked around and saw Les Brown and asked him if he could, just do fill-in. And Les Brown was shocked that the teacher asked him that, because he was failing so much in school that they'd put him back one grade. And he said, I can't do that. And the man said, yes, you can. You could do it. Why can't you do it? And then he said, there's a term he used, meaning that he had he was mentally defective. And the man, he said, looked in his eyes, propped his chin up, and said, never, ever say that again. Someone else's opinion of you don't have to be your reality. And it was like a light bulb went off in his head. From that point, his life changed. The entire trajectory in his life changed. Success University, there was a guy in Success University who said he was part of a gang, and one of his friends got shot, and they were going to revenge. They were going to do a revenge shooting, and they went to the wake of his friend, and his mom got up and said that she has forgiven. She has forgiven whoever shot him, shot her son, and she's asking that nobody do the revenge shooting, because she heard that they were going to do some kind of revenge shooting. And he thought about that, and he decided that he wasn't going to do it. He gave up his gun, gave the preacher his gun. And later on in his life, a couple of days after, he saw a girl that he liked. He was from the hood, but something about this girl inspired him. He started talking to this girl, and he knew that the ways, the path, the things that he used to do, that this girl kind of didn't even though she didn't know about it, but the girl seemed to think that he was a wonderful person, that he was an intelligent person. The girl was responding to a part of him that he didn't even realize existed. And guess what? He became that which the girl it's almost amazing. The girl expected, the girl thought, the girl saw, the girl believed things about him that in his own mind he didn't think. But because the girl expected it of him, he responded to that and he became it. Point made and point accepted. I tell you, when you begin to see value in men, when you begin to let them know that you have high expectations of them, you will connect with them at a level, and you will be able to, as a lever, help them to jump off and move in a direction that you would be shocked and they would be dumbfounded. So believe in them when they don't even believe in themselves. And challenge them to accomplish. I always like the story of Abigail, who was able to challenge, what's his name, David. I'll speak more about that. All right, let's do something practical now. What time do we have? We have 8:40. Connecting with time and space. There's several other ways of connecting time and space, talk and togetherness and activities. Briefly, some of you spoke about connecting through talk. And remember, Natasha, you're going to share some ideas with us, and anybody else who have things that we may not have touched about. Right, how do you connect to time and space? When you connect to someone, through talking with them, there are many levels of talking. Do you know anybody here knows the 5 levels of communication and talking? Does anyone know about those levels? Because if you don't, many of us would stay on the surface. Do you know the 5 levels of communication? There are levels of communication, about 5 different levels, and if you know what these 5 levels are, it will be easy to connect to people, with people on a deeper level as you go down and speak to their soul and heart and mind. Many of you do it. Anybody else? Patricia said no. I haven't heard of these. Okay. I'll share them with you. The first level of communication that many people interact with is what we call the casual chit-chat level. You know, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. How was the family? Oh, they're fine. You know, so that's just a chit-chat, casual, cliched. You okay? You okay? Fine. You call someone on the phone. Hello. You okay? Yes, I'm okay. Are you alright? I'm alright. Casual. Very casual. Oh, it's nippy out here, isn't it? Talk about the weather. I never knew that the weather could be such a great topic of conversation until I got here. In the Caribbean, and I suspect in Africa, we don't talk about the weather like that. Even today, I was thinking, man, the temperature has dropped. So that's casual. Chit chat. Then there is what we call facts. Oh, you know, how did you do in your exam? How was work today? How was church? You report on what happened at church. You report on what happens on the news. So those are facts. You speak about the results of the game, the results of X Factor. Those are facts. You speak about that. Then there is, as we get deeper now, on a deeper level, opinion and ideas. What do you think? You know, what do you think about the coming of the Lord? You know, I feel Christ is going to come soon. Have you heard of what Trump has done? So those are opinions. And people sometimes are very careful. Many of us don't give our opinions as much because we don't want to be judged. Then there is now the deeper level of what we call feelings and emotions. My boss had a go at me today. So I'm reporting the fact. I feel that's because my colleague said something about me. That's an opinion. It may or may not be right. And then if you're really comfortable with the person, you would go on to say, you know, I felt very small. You know, I feel inadequate. That's the deeper feelings and emotions that's coming through. Many of us don't share that because we're becoming very vulnerable right now. But the deepest level of communication is where you share your feeling, you share your emotions. I feel embarrassed. I feel shame. What am I going to do? You know, right now? Now this is the deep level. I feel I need a hug. I really feel I need a hug. Now, whenever we're able to express the need, because the deepest thing is the need. And if you can connect at that level, you would be able to connect with people in amazing ways, that you would hear things. This is not a lesson about communication. However, when connecting with other people, not just men, if you move beyond casual, cliched conversation, chit-chat, to facts and reports, and if you could move on this level, opinion and ideas, what do you think about? What are your ideas about? To feelings. How would you feel if it would be far easier to connect with people by deep diving to level 3 and 2, and more so level 1? But be careful with level 1, because this is where people are most vulnerable. Do you have any questions for that? Right, talking about time, in the interest of time, I'm going to speak about time and space quickly, and only to say that if you're going to connect with people, you need to have the time. Yes, you need to have the time. In this era of human development, we're all terribly busy. We're bringing home work, we're jutting to and from work with things. Do you have the time to connect? Years ago, when I was in Montserrat, we had a very leisured, laid back, we could drop into each other's house and spend time talking and connecting, whereas now we're ever busy. Many of us are bringing home work. Many of us have work, not just work from our professional careers, but work from church. We're ever so busy, and we don't have the time. You know, whenever people speak to me about having a relationship, I usually ask them, do you have the time? Not only do you have the time, do you have the space? And by space, I'm talking about emotional space. Do you have the space in your life? Can you fit someone else in? Do you have your space in your head? Mental space for someone else. Some of us are so cluttered, even physically. If someone were to come to your house, is there space for them? If a man were to show up in your life, is there space for him? And sometimes simply making physical space in your house. One lady, one time, she was thinking about getting together with someone and praying about someone coming into her life, and she went into a wardrobe and the Spirit spoke to her. She had so much or many clothes and shoes, and her room was so filled with different items and things. Not that she was a hoarder. The question came to her, if someone were to come into her life, and would there be space? And you know what? She actually was convicted to make space. So many of the things that she were wearing, the shoes, the clothes, she got them together, bagged them, and took them to the charity shop. And soon after, guess what? Soon after, she had she made space. She made her home, her physical environment. She fixed it so that she could accommodate someone. Guess what? Soon after that, someone showed up in her life. Yes, Patricia is very right. Patricia has made a statement that it is sometimes very difficult to communicate on a deep level. And I presume you're talking about the level of feelings, emotions, and more so the level of need. So you have to be very careful about communicating on that level, and that is why you have to feel safe with the person with whom you're sharing on that level. You have to feel appreciated, you have to feel secure, you have to feel safe, and you two need to provide a safe, secure environment that people could share on that level with you. Right, time and space. Continue. I just spoke about, do you actually have space? And this is like the superwoman here. Many of you girls are super, you're running businesses, you're career oriented, and you are so busy streaming through life and accomplishing things that, you know, you may not have time and you may not have space. To connect, you need time and you need space. By the way, the flip is true. We can connect with time and space, but we also have to give time and space. Why? What do I mean by that? As much as you would connect by having time and giving time to people, many times you need to disconnect to give them space and to give them time. And men especially like this. Women don't understand that. Sometimes a man would come into your life and everything is going good, and all of a sudden he withdraws, he pulls back, he stops responding, and a lot of women panic. What they don't understand, that when men connect and they become very intense, there are times when they need to disconnect. When they need space, they need their own space, they need to go back and regroup, reconsider, think through. So you don't need to crowd them. So there's a delicate balance here. And sometimes the man, need the attention, he needs the time. But and other times he needs you, or you need to pull back and give him the space and the time. And if he pulls back, allow him the space and the time. And when he comes back, the connection is even stronger. The bond is even more powerful. And that is something we probably need to explore in greater detail at another time. So you need the time to connect, you need the space to connect within, and at the same time, you need to disconnect and give the person his space and his time, and allow another time to reconnect and to go back and bring him back into the space. That may sound a little bit convoluted, but I hope you get the point. All right, I think I'm going to end on this point. I have a couple more points that I want to speak about. That to connect with people, they must sense that they are getting value from you. Remember, in the last seminar I said, you don't necessarily need to be attractive. That helps if you are. Or beautiful, it helps if you are, but you must be useful. And when you're useful, you become beautiful and attractive. When you're useful, you become beautiful and attractive. And many times, most men, and a lot of us, we know that beauty is skin deep. We know that it's just a surface thing. And what we want is for someone who is what we call wife material. And that person is a person who is useful to us. I don't know if you grasp that. That person is a person who is not only useful to us, we are useful to her too. And I know this. I know that you're Miss Independent. I know that you are super accomplished. You have your degrees. Some of you have your masters. Some of you even have your business running. But what? If only you could be a bit open to needing us, for us to be useful to you. Because many men look on women and they think, what could I do for her? What could I bring to her? She already has everything she wants. And sometimes when they observe you, seeing you get in your house, get in your posh car, having a wonderful job, all super successful, they may not have even achieved half the things that you've achieved and accomplished. They are discouraged. And so to connect, we have to put, I'm suggesting to you that you become open, not only to be useful to that person, because sometimes they don't want you to be that kind of useful to them, like providing them material things. They don't want that. That's the last thing a man wants, to feel that he's inadequate to provide. What many of us want is to be able to be useful in your life. And so to connect, one of the most beautiful points that I could share with you, and I hope all of you are listening to this, is to be open for help from men. I guarantee you, $1 against a dog biscuit. If you go out on the streets and ask any man for help, most men, 99% of them, will kill themselves to help you. Because there is something in us, we just want to be able to contribute in some way, shape or form to you. And I tell you, this is not difficult. This is not hard. It may be hard for you if you're accustomed to doing everything for yourself and by yourself and with yourself. But if you ask for help, be helpful and be willing to be helped, you will find that you will connect on levels that will be astounding. Simply go and find some place or somehow that this person is good with or good at, and ask them to help you in that area. Ask them for advice. Tell them that you're having this issue. Can they help you? Tell them, look, you've heard that they are a very good carpenter, computer technician, they are doctor or nurse, and you're having this issue. Can they help you? Will they be able to do something for you? And I tell you, most men would be happy to do it. And guess what? As they do it for you, and you show appreciation for it, they are likely to be connected with you and to you on a deep level. Are we clear? Just looking at the chat here. Patricia says, I'm making room at my home. It's enlightening how much stuff you have. She says, and interesting what you really think you need. Yes, we need to make space in our life, Patricia. Okay, I'm going to see what we can... I'm going to make 2 more points, and then I'm going to ask, is Natasha still with us? Natasha, are you still there? I'd like you to share some of the ideas that you said you had with us. So please put them in the chat box as I scroll through. Whoa, Patricia has had a bad experience here. She says that most men will help when you ask for help. They either don't turn up or do a poor job. That's the 1% of men that you have interacted with. Oh, brother, Patricia, if you're able to, I'm not too sure if you're a perfectionist. They either don't turn up or they do a poor job. Those are the 1% of men that. Remember, I'm saying that you should ask men to do something for you in their area of expertise, or something that they're good at. All right, let's see if we can flow through. Give feedback, don't criticize, letting me know you expect better of him. Now, what happens when a man disappoints you, or he does something that you don't expect him to? I suggest, yes, you give him feedback, but in a way that would help him but not crush him. So if he did something that you don't like, that was disappointing, you identify the thing. You say, well, look, this is what happened. And, I was really disappointed. And this is how I feel. I really expected something better from you. I thought that you weren't this type of a person. And you just say, I didn't expect you to handle that thing that way. But all of us are humans. I wish that you had done X, Y, and Z. And then you tell him what you wish he would have done. And more often than not, some men, they wouldn't, obviously, nobody likes to be told off, or nobody likes to know that they're a disappointment. But if you come over in a way to just express your own feelings without crushing him, he will respect you for that. And believe it or not, you would have made a deep connection. I have here pushing me on his comfort zone. That's believing in him. So a lot of men need to be challenged. Here is something that I like to share with you that is important as we come to a close, that while I don't agree with fighting men, I think there is a time and a place where you need to be strong and you don't take crap. You don't accept crap. And when it is done the first time, you may, okay. But if it is done repeatedly, again, you need to set clear borders, clear boundaries. And men will respect you. People will respect you, whether men or women. You know. And sometimes you need to be very careful, especially if you're disappointed and you're hurt, because you could come over in a way that is crushing. I say that you be firm but gentle. Firm but gentle. You don't need to be a walkover or pushover. You say that these are my principles, these are my borders, this is what has happened, this is how I feel about it. I would much prefer you don't do it again. If you do it again, then I would have no other option but to disassociate myself with you. So be clear about your borders, parameters, your principles. Men love strong women, but not masculinely strong women. Not a woman who would be in his face, pointing and wagging her finger. No. Someone who could sit down and clearly say what she doesn't like and what she would prefer. Right, this is the last thing. The last thing, being vulnerable. We've touched on it earlier. There is something about vulnerability that is very appealing to men, but very frightening thing to be. Scary, as a matter of fact. However, it is almost like an attractive magnet that pulls men in when a person can be vulnerable. Now, like I said, it's scary. It's threatening because you are allowing someone to come and see you maybe at your weakest, maybe at a point or a level that is not displayed to the whole world. I call it your point of almost sometimes nakedness. I'm using that in a guarded way, where people can see that you are truly human. We love that. Now, who you do this with is totally down and up to you, but you need to be very careful. As somebody indicated earlier, people can use this against you. And, love is such that the person who you love the most is the person who is the greatest threat to you. Being vulnerable, showing your needs, your feelings, and asking for support and help. And by the way, when a man is vulnerable or another human is vulnerable with you, then it is of utmost importance that you protect them. What do I mean by that? That you make them feel safe, secure, and protected. Obviously, you're not going to go and spread it around. You're not going to go and tell everybody. But you're not going to make it a point of conversation with your friends or family. Although that is very easily done, and that is a temptation to do, because it might be a hot news, and we like spreading news. However, if people know that they're safe with us, and if you feel safe with someone, and you are vulnerable, I think this is where the greatest connection are made. All right. I would like to talk to Tasha. Tasha, you said that, here we go. Most of these points have been, the chat room has been blowing up. Tasha says here, I liked the man and we would speak nearly every evening. He had a terrible situation. I was impressed to support him. He said, I saw a champion in him, a lion and a king. in his most vulnerable time. Well done on you, Tasha. After this, we became very close friends, supporting each other like family. He asked me to pray and see if he was to be my husband. I didn't. He had too much on his mind at that time. Was that the outcome he wanted? No. Where is he now? Is his mind clear? Tasha says it's even more difficult. I just prefer him nowadays. What a shame. Keep praying. Tasha, okay, you've answered. It's about making him feel safe. Right, great. Okay, everyone. I've come to the end of my presentation, and I just want to ask if you have any questions. I'd like Tasha to tell me, because Tasha, you said you had some ideas on connecting and connection, and I didn't get a chance to hear from you what those ideas are. And those of you who have had experiences of connecting with people, what has been your experience, and how did you make that happen? Sorry. Okay, Tasha says, I unintentionally, that's a gift you have, Tasha, unintentionally made the men who I connected with feel safe and secure around me. That's very good. If you have that gift, that is a powerful gift that would attract people in your life. But she says, thanks, today has been challenging. Being vulnerable and saying what I want is difficult for me, and I often say nothing for an easier life, then regret it. All right. I don't understand it until doing this course. I didn't understand it until doing this course. Okay. Any tips on making someone feel safe, Tasha? Now, I didn't have a chance to talk about listening. There is a powerful technique that we use as coaches called reflective listening. And that helps people to, and we teach our clients this too, particularly couples, how to listen beyond words, how to listen to the feelings of, and how to listen to the need of someone. Unfortunately, many of us, myself included, are so taken up with conversing with, when we are so taken up with putting our ideas across when we are conversing, or defending ourselves when someone is talking to us, that we miss what the person is saying. And one simple idea I would like to share with you to help people feel connected and safe when they're speaking to you is to reflect back to them what you think they're saying. And it could be as simple as this. Let me see if I'm understanding what you're telling me. So you are saying, bam, 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 X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Is that what you're saying? And they would say yes or no, or try or clarify if you misunderstand. And then, rather than going off on your own, you might want to say, well, is there anything else? That could really help to connect and speak to someone on a much deeper level. Okay, well, I'm going to have to go. I think we have gone over 1 hour 45 minutes. Whoa. I have to go now, guys. I trust that we had a good time. It was great talking to you. And we will be in touch next week. Stay strong, stay faithful, and remember to connect with people, not just men, anyone that we have in our life on a deeper level. Speak to them about their ideas, their feelings, their needs. Also, go about this week asking God and thanking God, but more so thanking God for bringing wonderful, available, potential spouses in your life. Stay blessed. Speak soon. Remember, God wants you married. There is someone who's looking for a wonderful person like you to get married. You only need to show up.